Fantastic news finally coming out of the UK with Tommy Robinson officially free. He's out of prison. And when he was released, my friends, he looked like a homeless bum, believe it or not. Here is a video of him being released and walking out of Woodhill prison. Finally, a free man after 4 months in solitary confinement. Here he is.
You've been incarcerated in this horrible place since October. Can you tell me, first of all, how are you? How are you feeling, boss?
I feel good. Unfortunately, in a country that doesn't believe in free speech, being a citizen journalist, this place is an occupational hazard. It's ridiculous. 16 years ago, when I first started speaking out against Islamic gangs that were plaguing this country, from that point on, I faced relentless attacks from the British state, wielding lawfare as a weapon in order to silence me. I have never been convicted by a jury. Every one of my convictions have been handed down to me by judges. The lucky thing with this, everyone got to see the film. I have to say a thank you to Elon Musk, because without X, if we didn't have X, everyone would just think I lied. No one would have got any other narrative. Fortunately, I think, 167 million people saw the truth. So that gagging order, these attempts at censorship, to silence, to cancel people, it hasn't worked. You've attempted to lock up the truth, and that truth has been echoed around the entire globe. It couldn't have been any more successful. I knew exactly what I was doing when I released.
The UK doesn't have freedom of speech, because if they did have freedom of speech, then Tommy Robinson would be allowed to share the film silenced and not have to face a prison sentence, because as Tommy said in the video that you just watched, none of his convictions have been by a jury of his peers. They've all been a sentence handed down from a judge. And a vast majority of the judges in the UK, as far as I'm concerned, happen to be really corrupt. If you are sentencing the likes of a citizen journalist to have 18 months in solitary confinement, you are the problem, not the citizen journalist for telling a story or telling the actual truth, which is exactly what Tommy Robinson has done, I'll have you know. But Tommy, for what it's worth, has done an enormous amount of good for the people of the UK. I have reported on what has taken place to Tommy for quite some time now, ever since I found out that he was going into prison. I was making video after video saying we need to free Tommy Robinson. Even Elon Musk was telling people and asking people, free Tommy Robinson. All he needed to do, right, was he spent 4 months in there, which is a long time to be spending. He faced an enormous amount of persecution. He wasn't allowed to see anyone, his family, you name it. And all he had to do was delete the film Silenced from his social media. But he refused to do it. Why? Because people need to know the truth. And Tommy, he shouldn't have even been there in the first place for contempt of court, an offense that the court deems worthy to throw him in solitary confinement for 18 months. And they finally reduced his sentence, and he's now free because he removed the video after 4 months. He made a statement, didn't he? The entire world, 167 million people were able to see the film Silenced, exposing the Pakistani grooming gangs in the UK, telling people that's exactly what Tommy has been doing for many, many years, in exposing what these gangs have been up to innocent children. It's disgusting that a citizen journalist like Tommy would be imprisoned. When he got out, he looked like a homeless man, but then he had a haircut, he had some food, he got to see his kids. And then he had a conversation with Ezra Levant of Rebel News. And this is what he had to say about his time in solitary confinement. Have a watch.
I still find it unbelievable. I find it unbelievable, the sentences, because the guidelines, what I find unbelievable, criminals get 60% off, and then they half it again and get HDC, home detention curfew, for tagging. And they say the reason for the Labour government brought in the policy that they get 60% off, and they're emptying the prisons because the prisons are full. So I go to prison as a civil offender. You're right, as a civil offender, you should go to an open prison. I'm transferred to H&B Wood Hill, maximum security. When they took me to the segregation unit, there's 16 cells here, 16 cells here. So they cleared that whole side. So they put just me on this side.
So they let those prisoners go free?
No, they give them, so when you go down, segregation in a prison is where you go for punishment. So if you stab someone, and there's some amazing, I have had a 7-month education of interviewing officers. Every officer I saw, I'm a journalist, I just interviewed and asked questions and watched and listened to radios. And so I could get information on what's happening within the prison system. I spent time on the separation centre, which is the prison within the prison built for to see the facility, the accommodation. But the segregation facilities are where you go if you stab someone in jail. So you know there was recently a stabbing at Wood Hill Prison. The officer got stabbed in the head.
Oh my God.
Did you see it on the news?
Right.
It's only been in the news because of the Salman Abedi's brother attack. There's been some high-profile attacks within the prison system against members of staff. And 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, there was an attack on a prison officer. So when that boy stabbed the prison officer in the head, he gets put in the segregation unit. That's what the segregation unit's for. Now, to get them out, because the staff told me, they were bribing the prisoners. So because they're down segregation, they were saying, just forget whatever you've done, you can go back to the wing. So where they've gone down there as punishment for violently attacking people or any problems they've done in the jail, they were just all let out. And they're not allowed TVs down there. Yeah, they're giving them all TVs. They're getting them to move over to the other side of segregation, giving them TVs. So I was on my own there.
So this was to clear out a wing for you.
Clear out a
they
wing
were
for
letting
me.
these who were violent. Someone stabbed a guard, but they needed a clear space for you, so they let them out of segregation.
Let them out of segregation. So I had 16 cells there. And then for the first 5 weeks, I just stayed there, 23.5-hour lockup. I got taken out on the exercise yard on my own for 30 minutes. And this was why they were trying to work out what to do. And then because I was a civil offender, they had to allow me exercise. And they wouldn't allow me any, any interaction with anyone else. But they said for my own safety. So then there's a separation centre. So the British prisons built in 6 prisons in the UK, I think it's 6. They built prisons within prisons for the. So the worst, most feared, because they're converting and recruiting on the wings, the worst ones go to this centre called a separation centre. So I was held on segregation, but every morning then, I'd get taken at 8:30 in the morning. I'd get walked over, 22 doors. So I counted, someone said. So it's 22 doors. You go through all the locked doors. But to get me from here, 16 cells here, 16 cells here, to get me from here, so that no one saw me, I'd go through the back office route, all the way around the back and taken out, then over to the maximum security. So although Wood Hill is a category B long-term prison, it has the most secure unit in the country. So the worst prisoners, it's where you come and had the visit. That unit there is for the top security. So to get a prisoner out of the cell on that unit, they have 6 fully dressed in riot gear officers just to take them to the shower. So to walk them from here, they open the door, they take them from there, they get all padded up into full riot gear, then they take them to the shower and then they walk back. But that's where that unit is. For anyone who's murdered people in prison, for any of the repeat violent murder offenders, they go to this unit. So there's different sections to this unit, but one section.
That young man that stabbed the prison officer, just real quick, I was going to make a video about it, but same prison, Wood Hill Prison. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough time because there was so many other things going on before I could actually make a video about it. But I'm glad that Tommy actually brought it up because that's important to know. And they're significantly having a lot of issues with this young man in prison, this just sick, twisted individual that ended the lives of young children at the Southport. So I'm glad that Tommy actually spoke about this to Ezra because people need to know this is what's going on in Wood Hill Prison. It's kind of wild that Tommy would be in Wood Hill Prison considering he was a civil offender, considering that his crime, which is no crime at all, he committed a civil offense known as contempt of court. And it's a pretty bullshit offense, if you ask me. But nevertheless, he was thrown into Wood Hill Prison along with all the other T-wrist individuals that wanted him gone. They wanted him out of the picture. So the guards had to be very, very careful not allowing the T-risk individuals to know that he was there. So to me, it seems really strange how a judge would go, send Tommy Robinson to Woodhill Prison where we keep the actual worst of the worst offenders, even though Tommy isn't a menace to society at all. According to the judge, we're going to make an example of him, so send him to Woodhill Prison. Like, are you for real? That's nuts. In solitary confinement, no less. So they had to make space for Tommy. Had to remove all the T-risk individuals and make space for little old Tommy Robinson over a civil matter. This is honestly corruption, isn't it? How crazy is that? I'm glad that Tommy is now free and he can be with his family. I wonder how much he's going to change, considering that he was in there for 4 months. But I hope that he doesn't get arrested again and thrown in prison again, because this is honestly insane stuff. The West is going downhill fast by the looks of things. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.